Hey YouTube. So this is white ash. It's the one of the big logs that was over there. I still have another one of this ash left yet. I know you can't see it, but at that end I got two little flitches, but they're boards that I can take off. You see them at the end there, and I've got the other stuff on the back of the, or on the forks of the backhoe. So I'm going to cut this now into boards. This was a 15-inch log at the small end. So I ended up, let's see here, with 11 inches this way and 12 and a half inches high. It was a little bit oblong in shape, or oval. So I'm going to cut this into boards now. It's looking really good at the moment, but we'll cut this and you'll get to see what this looks like. And also, guys, I wanted to just tell you this. First of all, I've been having one heck of a time with my internet. You know, if I didn't pay for the freaking thing or whatever, I would understand that. But I have paid loyally every month to these people. And the internet's at the point where it takes me 12 hours to put up a video. And it's just takes so much time off of me that I can't get my other work done. So I've been working on our gardens and stuff mostly during the day and trying to get cleaned up here. I mean, you know, it's only been like 3 weeks since we haven't had snow, and I really want to get cleaned up, but I also want to get some of this stuff cut. This isn't quite 12 foot. This is got a little bevel over there from this is the stump end. It's almost 12 feet. It's about an inch away from 12 feet. So I'm going to cut it as if it was 12-foot boards, and I'm not going to put these inside the kiln. I'm just going to put these on the pile over there, and I'll use some of these for the roof of the garage when I get ready to do it. So anyway, let me get this thing started up and warmed up, and then I'll show you the log has been sitting for a while, almost a year, I guess. You can see the end is pretty yellow. That's actually dried to that color. The middle is a little wetter, but it's nice and white and there's not a knot in it. Beautiful lumber. I'm gonna get you over here. Yeah. nice 1x12. This stuff almost looks like maple from the way it's partially dried. Beautiful wood though. Very nice. Make a nice tabletop. I'm gonna take, I got 4 of them there that I think I'll use for one layer on the garage. I'm gonna use the rest of these boards somewhere else, so I'll probably, I hate like heck to cut it down to 8 foot. I'll just keep cutting 1x out of here and I'll find a place to put it down. This log had a crack in it, and if you look there, you can see it at the end. That's why I'm cutting it with that crack. It also had one up at the other end here. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can see it there. So I didn't want that crack to interfere with all the boards. So I might be able to get one board out of there. Well, no, I won't. This cracks up too high. So I might be able to cut that board into a 1x12, 8 foot long. We'll see. Thing about that cut right there is that the crack that was in there, except for a little bit at this end, was totally in that board. So the next boards there are 8. I'm going to cut them down to 8 foot and put them on the skid here for my kiln. Those will be nice. That one there I'll use yet on the garage. Sheathing, it's not going to hurt it to have a crack in it as long as I can nail it up. So I'm going to cut that down to 8 foot and cut them into pieces. This piece that's at this end that has a crack and stuff in it, I'm just gonna let that go for firewood. I know that a lot of you wouldn't do that, and I understand that, but I've got a lot of lumber already, so I don't need to worry about it. I'll be back to you. Okay, now that piece that I just cut there, at this end right here, there's a couple of cracks in there yet, so it's not going to work real well for me with 12 footers. In fact, that last board, you look there, got a crack at this end pretty big, and it's in that way pretty far. So I'm going to see if I can't get an 8 footer out of that. If I can, then I'll put it on my pile that I'm saving over there. But it's not going to do me any good to try and salvage it, so I'm not going to. I'm just going to throw it in the backhoe for firewood. Two flitches here that I had cut from the beginning, those will go into some kind of board. I can probably get a 1x6 out of that one on the top and a 1x4 off the bottom. Okay, so that bottom board on there, is 1 15/16, and I want to get a 1-inch board out of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them top boards, put them over on the cube that I'm working on over there, or the pile, and then I'll come back and flip that over so I get a good 1-inch board out of the part that's closer to the inner part of the log, and then I'll cut that wane off of there. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I took those boards off, put them over there. Now I'm going to take this one, and I'll just show you the grain here. It's magnificent, this wood. Really nice. Now that different colors because it's darker. If you look at this, from sitting out in the sun for a day, this has changed to a little darker as well. But that will change that color yet till it's completely dry. So I'm going to flip that over so I get the wane off of it and have a nice 1-inch board to put on my pile there. There's a little bit of wane on this top right side here. The other side's actually good, but I still want a perfect board if I can get it. Actually, I will here. Top board is 7/8. The bottom one is 1 inch. So I'm going to put this bottom board on the pile there. That top board, I'll probably I think what I might do is trim the wane off the edge of that. And since it's still 15/16 roughly, or 7/8, I think I'll still put it on that pile. It's not that far off. Guys, something else that I wanted to tell you is, is this. I had gotten a comment or two about they cut the wood the way I do, and they stack the wood the way I do, and they still get some bends in it if it's a crooked log or whatever. And all I'm going to tell you is, yes, that's what wood is about. You can go down to Walmart or down to Lowe's, and you can buy yourself a perfectly straight 1x12. Take it home, lay it out in the sun for a week or two, leave it there, and you will find it twisting all over the place. Carpenters and woodworkers know when to work with wood. When you get wood, like say 2x4s, you get a stack of 2x4s pre-cuts, and I'm framing out walls with them. The faster you get those walls nailed together, especially once you break the pile open, the faster you get the walls nailed together, the straighter the lumber will stay. But that doesn't mean that it's going to stay perfect, because a lot of times even in brand new houses, you know, you'll see sometimes where a drywall screw or nail will move, or it'll, especially nails will pop out because of what the wood is doing. And you have to understand that with when working with wood. So if you think that you can go and you can tell somebody, oh, I have a pine tree here, one pine tree, I'm going to cut it down, or oak or whatever, it doesn't matter what kind of tree it is, I'm going to cut one down, and I'm going to, it looks straight and all, and I'm going to take it and, you know, make boards out of it. That does not mean that you're going to get straight boards out of those logs. You have got to stack them, sticker them, and then see what you get out of them. A lot of times when I take the kiln apart, a lot of the layers on the top of the kiln, the top layer, are not any good. Some of the boards are bad, but some of them are bowed this way, which if they're bowed like this, that's not really an issue. Now, if you don't know how to work with wood, it might be a problem for you, but you know, if you're fastening it down, even if you're making a tabletop, you can fasten wood in the middle. You don't have to just fasten it on the edges if you know how to do it. But what I'm getting at is wood does that because that's what it is. That's why, you know, wood has been used because it's the easiest thing we've ever used. But if you think about it, they started making planks out of plastic or, you know, some kind of resin, and that stuff doesn't have any grain or anything to it. It also doesn't look that great, okay? And it doesn't have any structural integrity. Whereas, you know, you take this board and you put two of them one on top of the other, and you lay it somewhere between two studs, like a, say, a 16-inch studs, you can put weight on that thing. I mean, you know, I'm not saying how much at the moment, but I'm saying it'll take weight. You take a piece of resin and you lay it down there, it doesn't have no structural integrity. You know, it only holds whatever that thickness is allowed to, like maybe a person walking. But you can't use it to set posts on and build a roof on top of it, because you'll go right through it with the 4x4s. So it's a matter of, you know, how quickly you get things in order. You put stuff in order fast enough, like that, okay, and you keep weight on it, and the actual weight I keep on there is the weight of the wood itself. You'll find out that you'll get a lot more straighter boards, especially at a certain humidity. Now the other thing you got to understand is, I dry those boards in the kiln and the whole board is dry. If I bring that board out and, like, let's say it's sticking out of the garage for some reason on one end, if it gets wet, that board can do anything. It can twist this way, it can twist that way, it can twist, you know, in two directions. You have to store this stuff properly. That's why you see lumber stored and banded, to keep it nice. Even at Lowe's, they do not unband wood, or any place does not unband lumber unless the other piles are already been used. So I just thought that that's something that you ought to know, you know, because I'm not trying to sell you wood. I'm trying to tell you that wood does that naturally, and it doesn't matter, you know, where you cut it out of the tree necessarily. Now that doesn't mean that if you can get the bend of the tree up like this, if it's not too high of a bend, like say an inch, and cut boards out of there, they should be nice. They might be bent this way, but they'll lay down. Now if you cut it sometimes like I do with the bend to the 90, you cut your cant out of there, if that cant is pretty much staying still as you're going down through the pile and you get to the last board and it's still all against the tabs in the back stops, there's no reason why you can't keep those boards straight. Now I'm not saying positively, I'm saying if you stack everything nice, if you get it into the kiln as soon as you can to dry it, you'll have better boards. But I see all kinds of videos on YouTube where, you know, guys are cutting stuff, everything is a mess. There's junk laying everywhere. They throw the wood on a big freaking pile and it ends up being scrap. Now I might leave a pile of 1x12s, you know, like say there's 5 of them there or 6. I may leave them sit there for an overnight, but almost always I'll take them and get them onto the pile, because the sooner they're on the pile, the more they're going to stay straighter, okay? This one board that fell off the backhoe there, I want to cut that down to an 8-footer. But I'm just saying, lumber naturally wants to bend and twist. It's the way things are. Now, you know yourself, if you, like if you look at trees, sometimes they'll lay down, and as they go down further and further, you know, in the forest, like let's say a tree fell over, it's leaning against something. It has a big bend in it now. Okay, as it falls down further and further for whatever reason, wind, branches breaking, or whatever, the tree will flatten out a little bit. Now, sometimes it could do just the opposite. If it lands on top of something like that, you know, and it ends up bending more, then you may end up having the bend in it if you don't get it cut soon. So these are reasons why, you know, Georgia Pacific, they get lumber, they cut it immediately. Their lumber pile is cut every week, so it's not like they leave it sit for a year. They don't have that much lumber sitting around that they can leave it sit for a whole year, you know, before it's cut. So I had other work to do, I had other logs I was cutting, and that's why I have these that have been sitting around a while. So I'm not positive as to them being flat, but I do know that when you get a nice straight grain like this one has in it, and there's no bending to it at the moment, okay? So you can turn this and lay it on the bunk. It's perfectly flat on there in both directions. So this would probably be a good log, or a good board, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen, because if the water comes out of one side rather than the other, it could bend. And all you got to do is take a piece of dry wood and throw some water on it, and you'll see that happen. Oh, I want to cut this one anyway. Yeah, I want to cut this into a smaller board and get this wane off of it. So I'll get this and the other two boards up here and do some cutting on them. So anyway, guys, I hope you're understanding what I'm saying there. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. But what I'm trying to tell you is that lumber normally bends, and it doesn't matter how straight the board is. If you leave it sit out, it'll bend. And plywood's the same way. If you take plywood and set it out, you'll see sometimes it has a bend in it when you unbuckle it, you know, to cut the bands, or you just leave it sit. It does not necessarily mean it's going to go flat, because just because they turn the grain, yes, it's stronger, yes, it holds a shape better, but that does not mean that it's going to stay flat, okay? So this is the way it is with wood. You have to know how to work with wood and offset the wanting of the wood to move, and then you're in good shape. Then you'll have good outcomes with everything. Okay guys, so I've got two boards on here. That one board that I want to cut the wane off of, and I got this one over here, which is going to end up being probably a 1x4. If it's not quite 12 feet, so I'll probably cut it down to 8 foot. This one here is probably going to be a 1x6, the one facing me. So let me get at cutting these and moving them around, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. So there's not a whole lot needs to come out of this top one. It looks like if I take it to a 1x10, I should have a clean board there. On the board in the back, that has no wane on that end, so that board's done. I can take that off of there now and get that put onto the pile, onto the sticker pile. So that's a 1x10. This one needs to go down little more here yet. Probably a ½ inch I'll take off this. And then once I take that ½ inch off, I'll flip it over and take the other wing. Looks like I ought to be down about 3/4. Board looks really good here now. The top of it, there's no wane on it at all. So I'm going to flip it over and cut the wane off of here. Let me just tell you something else too. Just because a guy's been running a sawmill for 20 or 30 years does not mean that he's going to always give you wood that stays flat. Now he's going to have a good idea of which way to cut the maximum amount of boards out of the log. But he doesn't know what's happening to that when it leaves him, and he doesn't care. So you as a carpenter or a woodworker or a furniture maker, you're the one who has to do the work and all the figuring to figure out whether something's going to work for you or not. So you can't blame the guy with the sawmill. I mean, I've had people come here with all kind of logs. Can you cut this up for me? I cut it up, and in the middle of cutting it up, they're bowling all over the place. Not my problem, okay? I can't help it. There's nothing I can do. I can try to cut different ways, but it doesn't always work. Let me trim this off. Turned out to a pretty nice 1x8 there. So I'll put that on the sticker pile. Now some of that stuff that I'm throwing away, if you're new to sawing or whatever, you may want to cut those small sticks there into stickers. I have a lot of stickers, okay? The first time I started cutting, I knew I was going to need a lot, and I cut about 300 of them just to start, plus I've been cutting them ever since. But I just wanted you to know that. So okay, this is like a 1x8, it's a 1x8, but it's not quite 12 foot long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this at 8 foot, and I want to put it on that pile over there. Now, a board like this is beautiful, and if you're doing woodworking, you may want to save something like that. I have 4 or 5 of them in the bucket there, and I know that the guy that I'm giving this stuff to, he'll pick that out of there and put it on a pile. I am not interested in that. I want full-length boards to start off with, only because I'm going to be drying them and I'm going to be planing them. Okay, so that gives me a 1x12 and a 1x8 there. I'm happy with that. I'll come back in a little bit and we'll see what I'm going to get out of this one right here. Okay, so there's that last switch on there. Now I already cut this and I just turned the camera on. So this gives me a nice wane-free top edge there. A little bit of just a hair, not enough to make a difference of wane there because I got a good size. So I'm going to turn this over now and see what we can get out of this. Now you can see that if you look close there, you can see that the wane is actually down into the top of my 6-inch backstop. I don't want that. I want to have that a little higher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a 1-inch board underneath that at both stops, one here and one there, and then I'm going to just go ahead and cut that down to probably a 1x4. So my camera's gone dead here, so I'm going to just shut it off while I do that, and I'll show you when I'm done. Okay, so I made the cut through there. This is a 1x5 at the moment. I'm going to cut it down to a 1x4 yet, because everything's wane free except for right here. So in order to do that, I need to change from these 1 inch to a 2 inch, so I can actually come over like that. And I'll make a cut through there then. So if I come down there about 1/2 inch, even a whole inch, I should be in good shape there. Alright, so that's the end of that white ash. Those will make 2 nice boards. I actually need a 1x4 over there to fill up the last row on the next to the last pile that I put on. So, like I say, I'm gonna cut this down to 8 foot. Cut it down to 8 foot, and then I'm gonna put it over there. Now it's like I say, I know a lot of guys would never cut this. There's really not a need to cut it, other than I need 8-footers to get them into the kiln. I'm not interested in putting anything bigger in the kiln right now. I mean, if I wanted to, I could put all 16-footers in the kiln, but I'm not interested in that because I don't want to have to cut them later. So I'm just going to cut this down to 8 foot and throw the small piece away, put the bigger piece over there. Got a nice looking board here, I'll tell you that. And even some of these smaller boards, you know, that look nice and flat and everything, if you nail them up, they'll probably stay flat if you nail them right now while they're wet. And they'll actually be a little easier to nail while they're wet, especially this white ash. But okay guys, sorry about that, my battery went dead. What I was trying to say is that there's that 1x4 I cut. If you nailed white ash, this white ash up right now, it's got a little bit of moisture in it. The wood's a little bit I'll use the word rubbery, but not really. It's just got a little moisture in it. So if you take this wood and you nail it while it has a little moisture in it, it nails easier. Now, white oak and red oak, forget it. No matter how dry it is or how wet it is, it nails crappy. It usually splits. This stuff you can keep from splitting if it's a little has a little moisture in it. If it's too wet though, it will split. I need to get some more stickers over here. So that's what I wanted to say to finish up this video. And I want to clean this up now and stack those other boards over on the pile. I'll take the lumber over to my neighbor. Okay guys, so that's it for today. Very nice pile of lumber I got here. A little bit of splitting in it, but you know, like I say, when do you use 8-foot lengths of lumber? Not all that much in red oak and white oak. You usually cut it up, but I don't care. I'm happy with it. So as soon as I get the other stuff out of the kiln, then I'll be putting this stuff in. Have a good one. Bye.